Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris J, and I thought before we jump ahead to 2025 and talk about some of the themes that are going to come up, and I am going to make a kind of looking ahead to 2025 video. You know, a lot of us, it's just part of the cultural conditioning that we get so conditioned on setting intentions, resolutions, how we're going to change, what's coming, moving forward. And that is all exciting energy to work with. It's also a really important and lovely practice to honor what we are leaving. And so I thought before we make that 2025 video of the astrology, we could really do a little bit of just review of 2024 to support you in your closing reflections, honoring the year. I know that there are some folks that are like, I don't want to look at it. I just want to move ahead. And yet, especially with some, I'm not going to talk about a lot, but there are some really important astrological shifts that happen this year that we can spend a little time with. Your time might literally be listening to this and just reflecting on what comes up as I'm talking about some of the themes. Or you might want to journal with some of these themes a little bit more as you move through these last 2 weeks or so of 2024. We are approaching winter solstice where I am, and I had to work so hard to film this when it's not pitch black outside, so that there'd be a little bit of those kind of West Coast evergreens for you. And yeah, so we're just going to look a little bit at the astrology of the year in review to help us understand where we are right now. Also, to help you understand and honor how much work you did this year, because there is a lot of big shifts. And I mean, one of the biggest shifts being that Pluto. Okay, so why don't we just jump in with, we had Pluto moving between Aquarius and Capricorn this year, and then we had that last move of Pluto shifting into Aquarius in November of 2024. And we are moving on those new tides of Pluto being in Aquarius, and that has come in with a pretty big conversation between Mars and Pluto. And so this year of 2024 has been a major transition year from the perspective of Plutonic energy, okay? And evolutionary astrology is really focused around Pluto and Plutonic energy. And this is massive for our soul journeys. This is massive for us individually and collectively. Of course, if you've been working with Pluto transits, if you've had any kind of late, like 29th, 28th degree Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, Libra placements, then you've finished some massive Pluto transits this year. You get to take a breath. You get to give yourself a lot of pats on the back. If you've got those 0, and 1 and 2 degree of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, Taurus, you are starting them, and you still get to give yourself a pat on the back for honoring the journey that you're in right now. But it's a lot of massive change. And so just right there, before we kind of jump ahead, before we say, okay, this and this and this in 2025, let's pull it back and honor, especially if there's been grief, if there's been hard times, if the body has felt it. That Pluto moving from Capricorn into Aquarius this year, that is a major shift in the body, especially for you sensitive souls. And a lot of us feel these, especially with that moving from the 29th degree, that was a lot of grief, potentially deep in the body, deep in the bones. And that, again, working with, like, we've closed out, we're still in the process of closing out a cycle that began in 2008. Okay, and as Pluto moves ahead in Aquarius, that's ending and ending and ending. But that deserves to be honored and reflected upon. And, you might take a few moments, and especially if you know where you have that kind of shift from Capricorn to Aquarius in your chart, how is my life really changing right now? How am I beginning a new soul journey? How does it feel like that to you? It might just be ideas. They might just be birthing. You might really be in it. You might be just imagining, but there is a process underway that is beginning a new soul journey. And that has everything to do in our personal lives with Pluto in this 2024 of having shifted from Capricorn to Aquarius. With that, we also see how we are ready for the next level. We are ready for the next stage of the game. We are ready to hold ourselves a little bit differently from the perspective of inner structures. This is what Pluto and Capricorn has really been supporting us with. I have to pause to let in the outdoor cat. Come on, babes. He doesn't want to be in the rain. There you go. I can't blame him. Though he doesn't spend that much time inside because he gets up to trouble, but it is very rainy. So just how have the structures internally within yourself shifted? These are questions that we might want to reflect on, and absolutely, how might we hold ourselves differently from the inside out in how we relate to society, in how we relate to power structures, in how we relate to beliefs of what success is, or even honestly what society is, because Pluto wants to change that over the next 20 years. And so these are felt very personally, okay? And so there's something that is still ending. We're still working with Pluto just shifting into Aquarius as we move into 2025. So it is a wonderful time to kind of reflect on that, and especially honor if you fully started a new chapter, if you fully are starting a new book of your life, or maybe you're actually starting to write that book that you've been wanting to write. And starting to write that book that you've wanted to write is not just sitting down writing. That is seeding intention. That is seeding ideas. That is letting yourself imagine it. There's a lot more that goes into writing than just the actual writing, and all of it counts as part of the writing process. I know that there's a lot of folks out there listening right now that have a book or they've thought of it. So maybe you're kind of shifting into that, just honoring the process, and especially honoring yourself for moving through the hard parts of Pluto and Capricorn, shifting into Pluto and Aquarius. There might still be some of that grief present, and just witnessing yourself and honoring yourself so that as we move into 2025, we're ready, okay? The other piece that we definitely deserve to honor is the journey that we've been on with the nodes in 2024, okay, and a little bit before. But in 2024, we've been working with the North Node in Aries and the South Node in Libra. We had a number of eclipses that were really pulling that up, okay, especially our total solar eclipse in April. Okay, that was at that 19 degrees of Aries point with Chiron. So that's when we had the sun, the moon, and Chiron all conjunct. Also, we had that North Node conjunction with Chiron. This has been a lot of work for folks, especially releasing that energy of the South Node in Libra. That is, so many of us have been doing a lot of work on letting go of those habits of people pleasing, of silencing ourselves for the sake of keeping the peace, of stuffing the emotions and the feelings and the thoughts back down so that we can just smile and be nice and be pretty, or whatever else we've been taught by family and society, how we're supposed to show up. This nodal journey, and this ends January 11th. Like, we're in the end of this right now as we move through the end of this year. There has been so much work, so much potentially challenging interactions with one-on-one dynamics where we've been showed, I'm not here to stuff it down. I'm not here to silence it. And part of the lovely energy of that South Node in Libra is it's still Libra. Libra, like it's not a binary of either I stuff it down or I explode. That's not how this nodal journey has been working with us. And we had a lot of energy, we had a lot of divine feminine energy moving through Libra recently, that it was really, it's about, Libra wants equity, it wants love, it wants compassion, it wants beauty, it wants harmony. It wants the actual harmony that comes from honoring my side and that person's side. And by doing that, that North Node in Aries got some fuel to say, my desires matter. Yes, I am allowed to pursue my kind of primal desires, especially when they're aligned with soul, especially when they're taking me into my soul path. And that's been part of what that North Node in Aries has really been wanting to open up for us. But this has been a lot of work, okay? Especially because if you're Pluto in Libra generation, that means you also, and you could have it going on right now, you've had the South Node on your Pluto. There's a lot of folks, I'm with you, that have some pretty heavy Libra stelliums, and the South Node went over all of that. And so there's been a lot of that karmic clearing this year. And so before we jump into 2025 and the nodes going through Pisces and Virgo, honor the shifts and the changes that you've made and how you show up in one-on-one relationships, on the courage that it honestly takes to honor our own beliefs, our own values, to let ourselves speak them. For some of us, that's a really scary journey. And if it was and is an ongoing scary journey for you, honoring the steps that you've taken and honoring your Aries North Node, because it's a lot of work. And a lot of us, especially if we have complicated trauma backgrounds, if we have complicated intersectional identities, a lot of us aren't taught to have a healthy, thriving relationship with our Aries selves. And that's part of what this North Node has been trying to create, a healthy Aries dynamic with ourselves. A lot of kind of Aries acting out of fear can be rash. Aries acting out of fear can get angry. Aries that's been suppressed isn't that heart, mind, gut alignment. It can take years to scoop out in this circumstance, the Libra South Node guck that gets in the way of Aries being in that heart, mind, gut link up, so that we can move as one integrated being with fire, with courage. And so that's been work that's been going on this whole year. Okay. And most likely there's been moments when it was stronger and you had some of those relational hiccups, relational struggles. And this isn't about digging it up. That's not what we need to do. This is about honoring your journey, honoring your work. Okay. The only other piece I really want to mention in this kind of reflecting and saying goodbye to 2024 is also so firstly, that Jupiter moved into Gemini, okay? And we're going to have another switch in 2025 when Jupiter moves into Cancer, but we're working with Jupiter and Gemini for a while. And, Jupiter switching from Taurus into Gemini is a big switch. And as we finish out this year, we have Jupiter retrograde. So you also might be nice, to look back. If you're a journaler, you can look back into April and then into May and see some of the shifts that were happening for you, May into June. What were the ideas that were coming up? Jupiter into Gemini was very expansive. And we've been in a period of of having to pull back and sort through, what do we want to move forward with? What don't we want to move forward with? It's also just a lot of mental energy, potentially mental exhaustion. That is going to shift in 2025 when we do make the shift with Jupiter into Cancer. But, as you close out this year, you could kind of go through, and you also might use that as a reflection to say, oh, wow, I remember I was so excited about that. And then I kind of dropped it, but I don't really want to drop that. I want to put it on an intention sheet and just kind of paste it up on my wall somewhere so that the seated idea is still there. And or maybe like you've still been clinging to things that you thought you wanted to do, and you're just kind of at this point, you know, we've just come out of Mercury retrograde. It's like, you know what? I just don't need that. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thank you for being up in my imaginal space, but I'm going to enter 2025 without that idea because I don't need it. So that could be really useful. And it might be nice to also, we did have that big conjunction of Jupiter and Uranus at 21 degrees of Taurus. That was in April. Okay, that was around April 20th. And that came after our total solar eclipse. April is a big month. April's a big month for me. April is a big month. And that was, you know, big. It's Jupiter, it's Uranus. That was wanting to restructure our embodied consciousness. And so take a few moments, quiet down, breathe in, breathe into the body. How is your relationship with your body? How is, and that's not just, you know, firstly, that's a loaded question. Maybe don't go all the way in there right now. But with your relationship with embodiment, because they're two different things, okay? Embodiment is where we are in relationship and we are working on having what is called embodied consciousness, where we literally are feeling and experiencing and understanding through the consciousness of the body. And that is ideally working in sync with the consciousness of the mind. But they are different systems and different ways of making meaning, and they can work really well together. Yet most of us grow up in cultures and environments and societies that only privilege the consciousness of the mind. So it is literally a lot of reclaiming. And my entire practice with astrology is embodied astrology as well as evolutionary and archetypal. Because that's how the archetypes for me speak with us, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful when we're in this way of making meaning. And that April conjunction was an opening for embodied consciousness in new ways that we're literally journeying with for another 12 years, okay? Because it's part of the Jupiter and the Uranus cycle. But there in Taurus, that's all about the body. That's all about how our body and embodied consciousness opens us up to new values, to radical values, potentially. And there, our embodied way of being is going to change how we feel and how we think about the body, right? Even when we talk about the body, we're still often objectifying it. Western culture, at the intersections of media, at the intersections of celebrity culture, objectifies and sexualizes bodies in ways that are entirely normalized. And it creates a multi-billion-dollar industry of body shaming that's often also unconscious, and then creates this vicious circle of looking for inspiration to oftentimes celebrities who are profiting off of a vicious circle of everyday real folks not moving from a place of embodied presence and love. And that's the thing, is that when we move from embodiment, we're not objectifying the body. We're not objectifying, ourselves. We're moving from a place of internalized awareness that is coming from different ways of making meaning, integrating, and it opens us up to so many different kind of perceptions of awareness and life. And, that conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus being an ability to have different ways of understanding in Taurus through the body, was really pivotal. And it is worth kind of reflecting just on that ongoing journey, okay? Especially as both planets, Jupiter and Uranus, are retrograde as we make this shift. So there is a lot of lovely reflective energy and slow down energy, okay? And these are just some of the themes, okay? Because we are saying goodbye to 2024. We are saying goodbye. You know, we've already said goodbye to Pluto and Capricorn, but as we move into 2025, we're looking ahead towards new conversations coming with the outer planets, with Neptune and Saturn, with the nodes. I will have another video on that. But it is a really lovely practice just to honor, and especially to honor within yourself all that hard work. Okay, I just spent 20 minutes talking about like 3 major astrological transitions that we had that brought up quite a lot of work and shifting and changing. And so that's part of the self-love practice. It's just honoring that, witnessing that, maybe doing something a little nice for yourself as a way of doing that, whatever that is for you, and closing this year out with that self-respect, that self-love. It doesn't mean that it was easy. It doesn't mean that it's easy right now. This is not about evolutionary astrology, not about it being easy. It's about it being real. It's about it being a journey for evolution and growth and healing. And as we open to that, then our perspective shifts, that embodied perspective, and we even start to let go of categories of easy or difficult or good or bad, and we are just co-creating with life. And I think it's magical. Okay, I am sending out lots of love. We're coming into solstice as I'm making this, so you could be watching it after solstice. But solstice blessings, and see you soon. Bye-bye.